You subscribed, but are you a channel member? You probably should be.
You get extra additional content, Madden gameplays, you get early access to tons of different videos, as well as what do we call those things again? Oh, that's right. Live membership only live streams. That's right. Only for members, only for you. You get all of our time and not just football, Ant.
Yeah, lots of other stuff as well. So go ahead and click the join button right now and join the 49ers Cutback crew.
Get some cool emojis also.
Oh, yeah, that as well.
From the alley-oops at Keysar to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. Sorry about the little technical difficulties, but we're on track. Here we go.
I hate everything right now. But you know what I don't hate? I don't hate the Cutback crew.
Yeah.
I don't hate the fact that we're talking about edge rushers. That's a positive thing and something I'm excited about because there's a lot of names and a lot of guys and a lot of players for the 49ers to target that could help this team. And I saw Impossible earlier in the last stream that this should have been running on, but didn't. But that's beside the point. Was talking about how if you're going to draft edge rusher, why didn't you just re-sign Arden Key? And the reality is that Arden Key was going to cost you $7 million. You know what a edge rusher in the third, fourth, fifth, sixth round isn't going to cost you? $7 million.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing. Is you're going to have to overpay Arden Key to be a situational pass rusher. He wasn't somebody that was going to be a starter. You can draft someone in this draft that could be a situational pass rusher to start and then eventually develop into the replacement for Ebucom if you decided that he was too expensive for you to keep around. So sure. This is an opportunity for the 49ers to get younger at a position and also improve a already very dominant room that they have. So edge rusher is always an option for the 49ers in every single draft. So you have to take into account this position and look into each and every single one of these guys. And there's a lot of really good edge rushers in this draft, and I'm excited to talk about it.
No, excited to talk about all of these guys, Ant. So all of you who are here already live with us, comment right now how pumped you are about this. And Ant, let's dive into some of these names that are on this list and options for the 49ers to actually go after and target. And let's start near the top of the list, not fully at the top of the list, because the reality is, right, the Kayvon Thibodeau's of the world, the Aiden Hutchinsons of the world, most likely the Jermaine Johnsons and the George Karlaftises of the world are not going to be available. But ever since David Njoku's injury, you have to now bring this up and mention this because this guy went from no way in heck the Niners are going to be able to touch this guy in the first round to, is there a chance this guy falls to a point where San Francisco feels they have to pull the trigger on him? What are you thinking? And then, obviously, what do you love about Mr. Njoku, who is probably your favorite edge rusher in the whole draft?
It is my favorite edge rusher in the entire draft, and he should have been, one of the top 15 picks in this draft, and he's just not going to be because of the injury. It's unfortunate. He may miss the entire season. So if you draft him, you are running the risk of him not having an impact on your team in 2022. However, the impact that he could make on your roster in 2023 and beyond could be enough for you to want to pull the trigger. Now, the question will be, at what point is that? I do believe somewhere in the second round, a team would be willing to take a shot on David Njoku. I think that the 49ers could be one of those teams. I think they would rather have an impact player, but it might be just too much to pass up because eventually putting him opposite of Nick Bosa could fundamentally change how your defense is played because there is nobody that can rush off the edge like D Ford except maybe eventually David Njoku. His first step is fantastic. His hand placement is great. He was one of the guys that got a star player for me. His rip is fantastic. He has great bend. He causes turnover, so he makes plays for your defense. I thought those were really things that were great about him. And the one concern I had was power. Well, you know what you can do during an offseason where you're rehabbing? You can get a lot stronger and a lot more powerful. So I would definitely be interested in making this move, Alex. The question is, would the 49ers take that chance at pick 61 knowing they're not going to have an impact from Njoku for probably the entire 2022 season and just being basically saying we're going to lock this guy up for 2023?
And that's what it does feel like indeed. And Gotta switch that over there.
There you
Mr.
go,
Editor, man. You gotta get something else going here. Look though, David Ajabu's got he's very explosive, extremely explosive, ridiculously high motor. And the rep move is incredible too. And when you put this guy in one-on-one situations, and he's gonna win. He's 100% gonna win. The only question is now is how impactful is that injury. I'm gonna be cautiously optimistic and say that there's a good chance that he could return at some point during this year, ideally probably late end of the season. But most teams, right, if you're taking a chance with this guy, you're not getting this dude. You're not getting this dude this season, at least not the best version of him or the version that you want to see. So this is a situation where in a rotation, I think works best. And guess what? In San Francisco, that's what he'll be a part of as a rotation. So it's actually a great fit.
Yeah, and he could start on the PUP list, and you could have him on the PUP list until he was able to come back. Alex, with the defensive line this deep, the 49ers could store him and then bring him back, like you said, in December and potentially on a playoff run and let this guy roll as a rotational pass rusher. So that's why I think he does make sense. If he was sitting there at 61, I'm not the general manager, I'm not John Lynch, I'm not Adam Peters and these guys that make the decision. If he was sitting there at 61, yeah, I'm going full Trent Baalke. I'm drafting this guy at pick 61 because I see the potential of what he could be in the future.
Agreed with you there, and you were right, chat. The chat has frozen on the screen at the moment. I'm working on it. We're working on that there. We'll see if we can't get that back up and running. And in the meantime, Ant, we can flip over to ideally another screen, which chat should be working and be working just fine while I fix that up. Look, I think David Ajabu is a very interesting one. I think this is one that every fan needs to be keeping an eye on. And I know people want to stay away from injuries, but this is a really special talent, Ant. A very, very special talent. Well, let's move to another gentleman out of Minnesota, Boy Mafi, another guy that you're very, very happy with, Ant, and in big hoots with you. Absolutely love it. Boy Mafi out of Minnesota is a special talent. In fact, Ant, I have him with a second round grade, a high second round grade.
I like that.
This guy's explosive. He's relentless. That bull rush of his is very hard to stop as well. When he gets going downhill and gets his hands into guys, he is just going to do what he wants to do. I love the way how low he plays in space as well. He's got a very nice rip move. I don't have very many cons on him. I don't have very many cons. I think the only thing I was questioning was whether or not he's an every down starter right away. But if you're the San Francisco 49ers, you don't need him to be an every down starter right away. So it's not really a con. It doesn't really matter. So for San Francisco, not many cons. For other teams that are looking for an every down edge rusher, maybe there's a con there and you don't want to take him and he falls down boards.
I really liked his heavy hands. I mean, that was something that I liked. It seemed like when he got his hands on people, they moved. He's very physical. He's able to bend the corner. He was very stout against the run, which I liked. Some of the other edge rushers that we're going to talk about need to develop their run stopping ability and being able to set the edge and not give up ground. He's not one of them. He's one of those guys that I believe is actually a very fringe first round talent. He's going to even get better because he's just learning the game of football. He hasn't developed fully all the way yet. This is an absolute must selection at 61 if he's available. I mean, I think he's that good that minus there being one of these other players that's available, maybe you think it's more explosive, maybe like a Christian Watson. This is where that conversation is, right? The explosive wide receiver versus the explosive edge rusher. But I really like this guy a lot, and I think he would be impactful for the 49ers. You could slide him in easily as a backup this year to Samson Ebukam, but he could definitely develop into a player that is equal to or better than Samson Ebukam and an absolute threat on the opposite side of Nick Bosa. He would be a steal for the 49ers at 61 if he's still sitting there. I don't know if he's going to be there, but if he is, that would be a steal.
True. P. Merger said Mafi won't be there at 61. Is
probably right.
Feel. He might not be. We have seen him fall that far. The Ajabu injury may make him not available there at 61. If Ajabu and him somehow, some way, were both available at 61, what route would you want to go?
I mean, it depends on if you want that guy this year. I think, in my opinion, Ajabu is a better pass rusher, a better player
right now. Absolutely.
So, I mean, if you feel like you can wait, then you wait. You're going to get a better player in the long run. But I think that it would be really enticing to go after Boy Mafi. But both of them could be gone. But we don't know yet. And there's so many things that change, throughout the draft. You don't know who's going to fall. I mean, last year people told us don't talk about Asante Samuel. Asante Samuel's going to go at the end of the first round. Then we did talk about Asante Samuel, and he went after pick 43 where the 49ers were supposed to go. So when it comes to the draft, you have to just go with windows and areas at which people are going to land. I do believe as well that these edge rushers are going to come off the board early, but you still got to talk about them just in case they slide. And if they do, then potentially the 49ers need to pounce on them.
So, Chad, how do you feel about Boy Mafi? How are you liking him? Have you watched any of him? Do you like this guy? Do you think it'd be a good fit for San Francisco? Do you like Boy Mafi? Or do you like David Njoku a little bit more? And I'm seeing a couple other guys bringing up some other names, but look, I think these are two of the names that are more the realistic possibilities now for the San Francisco 49ers at 61.
And potentially trading up, right?
Correct.
If one of these guys get into the 40 to 50 range, the 49ers could use some of their draft capital over the next 2 years. And you would think they don't have a lot of draft capital, but having 9 picks in 2022 and 11 picks in 2023 because of all the compensatories that are going on, that's 20 picks. That's a lot of capital to be able to move around in the draft if you need to. Plus, you got to think that they know they're going to be getting compensatory picks in the future. As some of these, we're going to have Greenlaw and Alshire potentially coming up the year after. There's going to be picks. Did Jimmy Garoppolo move, or something's going to happen there? Maybe you get another pick. But I think they can move up and down. But really, it's all about getting 5 to 7 impact players in this draft. And one of the ways to do that is get up there and get one of these edge rushers. Because what do you value more than edge rusher for the 49ers? I'm not sure, because I haven't seen them value anything else besides defensive line compared to every other position. Maybe quarterback after the investment last year.
Maybe quarterback after the investment last, but you're not making that investment this year, right? So, I mean, it feels like edge might be the key. That's the most important piece. I know people are O-line, receiver. You have 2 very talented wideouts in Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. You have the emerging Jawan Jennings, who's continuing to develop in his role as the third guy right now, and a guy who works in the power slot sort of role. Your O-line, you have 11 guys currently under contract. So unless there's someone you absolutely are in love with that you think is a bona fide starter there at 61, you may go with a guy who you can get that's going to be a rotational piece who's going to see the field and have an impact this year. An edge rusher seems to be the position, because there's another gentleman out of San Diego State, Cameron Thomas.
Yeah.
You've broken him down a lot more than me. My goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Let the Cutback crew know what you're thinking and what you like.
Yeah, Cameron Thomas, 6'5", 270 from San Diego State. The things I liked, I thought he was quick and he had a really good get off. And anytime you're quick and have a good get off and you keep low pad level, you're going to be one of those guys that Chris Kaceric's going to like. And he has a good motor. So he's somebody that can play the opposite of Nick Bosa, and he's going to continue to go get after it every single play. I think at first in the NFL, he's a rotational edge rusher, but could develop into a bona fide stud in this league, especially playing in the right system and playing for the right team with the right personnel around him. He would get that in San Francisco. There wasn't a lot of negatives to him. I thought that there was maybe a little bit of flexibility issues in his bend. I thought he could get a little bit better on that. I thought a few technique things that he could fix a little bit, but you expect that from somebody that's developing in college. So I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, yeah, this guy would make a lot of sense. And he is a player that will be available at 61 more than likely, maybe even 93, depending on what the run on edge rushers looks like. So to me, that is a realistic option for the 49ers, because when it comes down to it at pick 61, the fear is the holes for the 49ers are what? Nickel corner, safety potentially. You don't know if those players, there's going to be some player that is at the level you need at that position. So you might just value an edge rusher, and one of those guys could be Cameron Thomas.
Very well could be the case. And I've watched a little bit. I haven't watched a lot. I've been, you and I both have been kind of spreading out the edge rushers as best we can.
Yeah.
What I did see, and what you just brought up is the thing I noticed immediately, and that was the get off, the explosive get off, and the way he fires out. And anyone who has watched some of the drills the Niners do, we watched training camp last year, what they were doing with the edge rushers and D Ford and Bosa, when they'd have them compete, firing off, hitting the sled, and it's all about the get off and who hits that bag first and pops that bag first. I mean, it's something that is very important to Chris Kaceric and this D-line group in general, just being able to fire off at a high clip. He does that. Yeah,
they're built on penetration. The 49ers defense is built on getting across the ball and causing havoc. Not all defensive lines are like that. But that's why Arden Key and Maurice Hurst wanted to come play for the 49ers. It was a different scheme than what they were doing with Rod Marinelli in Las Vegas. So they had to make the switch, be able to do what they needed to do. And since they did, you've seen Arden Key have a big year. Now, Maurice Hurst had injuries that didn't allow him to have that development. But when you're looking at these edge rushers, that's the kind of trait you're looking for as scheme fits for the Niners. That quick twitch, impactful first step, getting around the corner, getting the bend, which means getting their shoulder down, getting around the corner, being able to run on their edges. That's why when you see them do the hoop drills, anyone that's ever seen them do the hoop drills or the figure eight drills at the combine, that's what they're doing. They're being able to run on their on their edges. Distribute their weight. That way they can make the moves that they need to make and then get to the quarterback. It's really fun to watch. I'm drawn a lot to the edge rushers, and I'm drawn a lot to the guys with quick pass rush moves. But we also like when they can set the edge. That's what Cameron Thomas can do as well, set the edge.
Very true. And a $5 super chat here from Jag. Hi, TCC family. What do you think of Cameron Thomas, Josh Pascal, and Arnold Ebiketie at 61. Thomas can play inside or the edge, fourth or fifth. He said Sam Williams as well. We're going to get to a lot of those names that you just brought up. A lot of those guys are going to get discussed. Cameron Thomas, we just went over.
Yeah.
Jag, so if you missed it, go back a little bit. Watch that, get back to this point, and then get yourself live and get yourself caught up with us here. This is going to be interesting, though, with this guy. But Arnold Ebiketie, might as well get to him, man. We might as well go right into that because that's the next name, one of the names he brought up. And it's a guy to Penn State that you have to imagine the Niners are going to be looking at, him and Luketa both, because they were at pro days for Penn State recently. And it was Lynch and who was the other gentleman?
Adam Peters.
Was it Peters? Okay, so Peters
the big dogs.
The big dogs were there, which means they're looking at some Penn State prospects. And Ebiketie, I have here, speed, great dip, bend, solid hand placement, overall talent versus pass and run. I feel like he's solid versus both. I have on here, can play high at times, but I didn't see it consistently enough for it to be like a con, like a negative, like this guy can't do it. When we first started talking about him, actually, you brought him up to me. How do you feel about Ebiketie? I was like, I love him, but we're not going to draft him. And he was like, why don't you think we're going to draft him? Well, he's going to go in like the first round. And you were like, oh, you might want to look again. He's not going high on draft boards. And I was going, wait, what? This is a guy that I have a first round grade on. I feel this is one of the more talented edge rushers in this draft. So the fact that the other teams don't value him there makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside, and I love it.
Yeah, I think the reason that he's not valued as a first round pick is mainly because of the things he doesn't do beyond the pass rush. Because if you're talking about pass rush, he's one of the best pass rushers in this draft. And the 49ers are going to be looking for a situational pass rusher, obviously, because they're going to have Samson Ebukam playing opposite Nick Bosa early on. So you're looking for somebody that can take the D Ford role right now and then eventually develop into a 3-down defensive end for you. Right now, Ebiketie is not that guy. I call him AK. I hope he wears 47 in the league. AK-47 makes a lot of sense for him.
Perfect.
But I think that he can develop some of the other areas. But here's what I had on him. I thought he was absolutely explosive. That was the first thing that jumped off. Good pass rush moves. So his technique and the way he uses his hands and the way he's able to dip his shoulder, he's able to get the rip. He gets the arm high. All the things that he does are really good. He's able to bend the corner, and he's going to be able to close on the quarterback. I like those things. The things that were question marks for me, his get off at times. There was times he was slow to read, the snap happening. So he was a little slow in that department, made up for it in speed. You're talking about his size. He's 6'2", 240 pounds. Good size, not great when you're talking about length as far as an edge rusher in the NFL. And then setting the edge against the run. That's why I say him coming in and being a situational pass rusher at first makes a lot of sense for the 49ers. However, he will not be able to play against the run on early downs early in his career as that gets developed. Chris Kasarik, we know, can develop that. Daryl Tapp, the assistant defensive line coach, can definitely help develop that, but it's something that he needs to work on. And I think if he does, AK-47 or Samson Ebiketie Arnold Ebiketie. I almost called him Samson. Wow, Arnold Ebiketie could be an absolute steal in this draft in the second round because I do believe that's what NFL teams are going to value him at because of some of the weaknesses against the run.
Agreed with you there. And Lexted said, what's the sweet spot for edge in this draft? Second, third, fourth? I think it's all kind of throughout that second, third round is where you're going to get impact guys potentially who could have an impact right now this year. And then there's some really good talented players 4 through 6 that you could get that have a lot of upside that just need some time to develop, but may end up being huge contributors to their team down the road.
I think if you don't get a edge rusher in the second round or even the early third round, you're getting a pure developmental talent, someone with maybe an elite or a trait or two that you have to develop, though. And so that's the thing. If you want a guy that's going to make an impact, you need to go edge rusher early. If you want a guy that maybe you can wait on a little bit and develop over a year or two as you have the current rotation that you have, then you can look round 3, round 4. You can start hitting guys in that 105 compensatory pick. But I think that's the sweet spot is really that second round area. There's going to be a lot of impact players that could change the dynamics of the team. The question is, can the 49ers sit at 61 and be able to get one of these impact players? I'm not sure. They might have to go up and get one, and I would be all for them getting an impact edge rusher because I believe that we have a good one in Samson Ebukam, but you never just rest on the fact that you have a good one when you can have even more good or great ones.
You want to have great ones.
Yeah,
right? You don't
exactly.
just want to have good ones. You want to have great ones, and you want to try and improve the room as best you can. BV said, I got a feeling that we trade Jimmy to the Steelers for their number 20 pick. They are looking for a good starting quarterback. Jimmy is the best choice, but the problem is BV is they paid Mitchell Trubisky. They went the Trubisky route. I doubt that they're going to be giving up a first-round pick for a quarterback when you just signed Trubisky and you think, you're just looking for, honestly, it feels like they went with a Big Ben type player in Trubisky. Not saying Trubisky is Big Ben or anything like Big Ben, but a guy who's mobile at the quarterback position. Ben, no longer mobile, right? But early on his career was a guy who could extend plays. He wasn't running the football like crazy, but he was breaking tackles, getting outside the pocket, and making big throws. They feel Trubisky can try and emulate those types of things. They were looking for a little bit more of an athletic, mobile quarterback. They got him.
I think Trubisky is a holdover guy. They're going to potentially draft someone that could take this spot. They'll do something in this draft, but I think it's a holdover. I don't think the Steelers are in on Jimmy with a first-round pick for sure. If it got to where it was really cheap, they could go in on this and have a quarterback competition between Trubisky and Garoppolo.
True.
But right now, I think it's the Carolina Panthers and the 49ers make the most sense. Just making it work is something that will have to happen once Jimmy's healthy. Because it's come out now that the Panthers players are not very confident in Sam Darnold. So that was like the biggest shock in the world, right?
Yeah, totally. Huge shock. Shocked, Ant.
Yeah.
Just can't even wrap my head around it. Let's move on to Drake Jackson from USC.
Okay.
How do you feel about him? Because I got some mixed feelings on Drake.
Yeah, let me get to my notes here. I'm not a huge fan. I'm not a huge fan of him. He's 6'4", 260 pounds out of USC. Mm-hmm. I liked his length. I thought that he played with a lot of length.
Long arms was one of my pros.
Yeah, that was something that he took advantage of.
If this was Jim Harbaugh, right? It just
Yeah, I've heard a lot of the things about people saying about it, but I thought he was playing stiff a lot of times. He looked like he didn't have a lot of fluidity and explosiveness with the way he moved around the edge. And then I thought his hand placement wasn't always well. I've seen some tackles get wrist control on him, be able to occupy his hands, and then him not be able to get away from that. I think that he's a good edge rusher. He's a base 4-3 down defensive end. But when I'm looking for a guy at that level, I want that dynamite explosivity. I want somebody that's going to have these elite intangibles and traits. I don't see that from him. I think he's going to be a good player in the NFL, not a great player. So I wouldn't draft him at 61, and I don't even think he's going to be available. I think he is going to go earlier than that. There's a lot of teams that are high on this guy, but I'm not all the way there on him. I want that speed element, and he doesn't give me that.
First step could be better was one of my cons. It's not. He doesn't explode off the snap and off the jump. And if you're not exploding off the snap and off the jump, look, you can have all the other great traits in the world, but in San Francisco, being able to get off the ball if you're going to be an edge rushing presence and guy is key. It's paramount. It's number one. I didn't feel he did anything great across the board other than his length that he plays with. I feel he has power, which is nice, and the long arms with that help in a big way. But I just don't see this being a thing the Niners are going to do. And I see a ceiling with him. I see a ceiling in him that I don't see with other guys. An interesting one, and someone that Jag had brought up, was Sam Williams out of Mississippi. I know you didn't watch a lot of film on Mr. Williams.
I did break down Sam Williams.
Oh, you did break him down?
Yeah.
Okay, great, wonderful. I have on mine here, I love the strength, I love the power, I love the physicality. Doesn't get moved often. I thought he was very good against the run, and I thought he may benefit playing more on the edge because, especially this last year at Mississippi, he was playing more of that hybrid 5 technique on the inside more than he was out on the outside. The biggest concern I have with him, though, is speed and dominance as a pass rusher. And with that in mind, with where he's going, it doesn't feel like this would be a San Francisco 49ers pick.
Maybe not. Sam Williams, 6'3", 256 pounds. I have him I think he had a good motor. I think he was really getting after it a lot.
Yes.
He was quick. He wasn't fast. He was quick. He played with really good pad levels, what I wrote. But I had some questions in other areas. One of those was his technique. It didn't seem like he was always, getting the things done that he needed to get. Once again, was allowing people to get into his chest plate, wasn't keeping the offensive lineman disengaged. That was a problem. He had stiff hips, so it's another guy that I worry can bend the corner consistently playing in the 49ers wide 9. If we weren't playing a wide 9 and he was lining up in a different technique, potentially, like you said, a 5 technique in the 3-4, maybe even a 7 technique, it could be a little bit different on how he's handled and plays in the league. And then he had character issues. This was something that it is you got to question when you're talking about 49ers. Ever since the Reuben thing happened, the 49ers have been worried about character issues. So that could be something and the reason why the 49ers aren't interested in Sam Williams. So I'm not sure he really fits the 49ers a wide 9 scheme to the level of some. But there is potential there because a good motor, quickness, and playing with low pad level seems like a Chris Kacerek guy on the normal.
Yeah, it really does feel like a Chris Kacerek guy on the normal. The question is does it make sense at that spot? That I don't know. I don't know if it makes sense to that spot. And another guy that's kind of in a similar area, Ant, that we've recently started watching a little bit more film on is Kingsley. Oh boy, Enagbare from South Carolina. It's an interesting guy. There is promise. There is potential here. There's a lot of positive things, but they are kind of ranked in similar spots. They are very close to each other on a lot of draft boards. Enagbare and Sam Williams. They are very close on draft boards, but there are some big question marks with Mr. Kingsley in the run game and his ability not to get thrown backwards, 5-10 yards at a time, it feels like sometimes on film. He doesn't have as much of an impact in the run game, but there is some flashes of some things in the pass game and some very unique moves. Also great balance. He takes on a lot of double teams and found a lot of success at South Carolina.
Yeah, Kingsley's 6'4", 259 pounds. So he's got good height, good length, pretty good size. And I wrote down good athlete. I think that was one thing that I saw, that he was a good athlete. And so other than that, though, I really think that he's a more of developmental edge rusher in this league. I think he does have a lot of potential, but I wrote down that he gives up ground, and you can see that on his film. If you watch any of the film, especially the Texas A&M film, Alex, which we watched actually together, you could see him giving up ground consistently. The bend, once again, that there's not the elite bend to be able to bend the corner, get around the offensive tackle, and get to the quarterback. That was something that he needs to work on. Maybe he could get more flexible in his hips, something of that nature. But also, he grabs when he's tackling, and that's one thing that frustrates me. I don't like grabbers. I don't like twisters and throwers. I want somebody that's going to get in there, get their shoulder pad into the guy's gut, wrap, grab cloth, and make a tackle. So that was something else that I wasn't a huge fan of. But I do think he could be a developmental impact player in this league, but he's got a lot of work to do. So if you want to draft this guy, especially at like 93, if you're drafting this guy to develop him behind Ebukam, and I would say even behind Jordan Willis, because I do believe Jordan Willis and Charles Omenihu would start over him, he would have to develop. So he would have a struggle probably to make this roster on the edge rush scene, because I think there is a lot of development that needs to go in there.
Yeah, it does feel that is the case there. And I just saw P. Murr said Sam Williams is a dog, a non-stop motor. It's very true. Lou earlier said, guys, is it your belief that at 61, the team will go edge before cornerback or offensive line? Feels like it.
It depends on which offensive lineman is there. If there's somebody that takes a drop, they could potentially go there. But it's going to be a weird spot, because a lot of the big-time names on offensive line are going to go before that, and then there's going to be ones that go after that you could potentially get at 93, so it's rating that value. You don't want to reach for a player at 61 that you could get at 93 or 105, especially when they're interior offensive linemen. So if it's a big-time tackle that falls, potentially there. With cornerback, I don't know if they're going to get a cornerback that could start over the cornerbacks they have now. They just invested money, into Ward, Travarius Ward, so you got that. Mosley, he's going into the last year of his contract, but you have Ambry Thomas sitting behind there. You invested a third-round pick there. 61 might not make sense for a nickel corner. I don't know who's going to be there. I don't know who's going to be that guy that's going to be an impact player for you. So you're looking for an impact player. I think it's more likely for the 49ers to go edge rusher or wide receiver at 61, because it's an impact player. They're going to want to get an impact player. So that's kind of how my thought process is about what the 49ers are doing. I don't know, Alex, how you feel about it, if you feel the same way I do, about what their thought process is going to be for 61.
I think the thought process is you're going to go the best available talent at a handful of positions. It's either O-line, safety, edge, or wideout. That's what it feels like it's going to be. It doesn't feel like it's going to be corner. I don't know why it wouldn't be corner, because you have a gaping hole at the nickel slot, but I just don't know if that nickel guy is going to be there at 61. That's more valuable than a potential O-lineman who could fall, with the plethora of edge rushing talent that there is, someone not being there, and the plethora of receiver talent. Right, all of these guys aren't going to go unless we have a draft in which everyone hits on like the best, like the where the talent is, where the high end talent is. If it starts off edge, O-line, receiver, the high end corner, if all those guys are going in sequential order off the board and no one's drafting a need early, then the Niners are going to have a plethora of options and guys available at any of those positions, and it becomes a crapshoot in terms of what it's going to be. Now, if someone starts going and reaching after positions of need, right? A team drafts a quarterback there in the top 15, which is most likely going to happen because there's some teams in the top 15 that need quarterback play, right? If there's another quarterback who goes off the board in the top 25 or something, or a couple of them, then you're looking at a situation where there's going to be a guy available that you didn't originally think was going to be there. And if you're the Niners, it's the only question is it a thing that you need, right? Is it a position where you need that, like you need to get that helps your team drastically? Because if it's not, if it's let's say it's a linebacker or something that's sitting there. You have two linebackers that are best available there at 61. I don't know if the Niners are sitting there going, yeah, we're taking that best available guy. They're either going to draft what's best, what's best available for them, or if they think there's a handful of guys that they like that spot, they could trade back. I just don't see that happening. I really don't. It feels like there's one of 4 or 5 positions the Niners are going to go after, and they're going to have a handful of options there at 61. Question is which do they value the most?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I don't know if there's going to be a nickel corner there. If there is, maybe they go that route. I don't think they're going to go outside corner. Maybe they do. Maybe they feel somebody's better than Ambry Thomas, and if that is the case, they could definitely go that route.
I saw Jag with the $5 super chat. Jag, thank you, my guy. We really appreciate
thanks,
that.
Jag.
In later rounds, maybe 4th or 5th, Michael Clemens from Texas A&M, Alex Wright from UAB, James Houston from Jackson State, said Myjai Sanders or Nick Bonino, 2 of the guys that we're going to talk about next. So you just sit tight right there, Jag. And I saw 420 Savage a little bit ago say, does John Lynch even look at offensive line in free agency? This year, no, because you didn't have a lot of free agency money available with the cap where it is, and Jimmy Garoppolo's $25 million just sitting there on the books. Niners are doing the best they possibly could with the cap room that they did. They addressed certain things. They had 11 offensive linemen under contract, and they're banking on these guys developing and possibly getting some more depth or guys to push the roster in the draft.
Yeah, potentially they hit on the offensive lineman that they needed to hit on last year. Aaron Banks has developed into a starting caliber offensive lineman in this league. Boom, you got that done. If Jalen Moore has developed into a starting offensive lineman in this league, boom, you got that done. So the investment could have happened last year in offensive line. We just haven't been able to see that come to fruition yet because they were playing behind other players this year while they were learning to develop. If Chris Forrester developed them and they can play, you're sitting in the catbird seat and you're pretty healthy and ready to go at the offensive line position.
Very true, Ant. It's very true indeed. Let's get to Myjai Sanders out of Cincinnati since Jag had brought him up. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Guy's long, plays with good leverage. I think he has a pretty good first step. However, overall speed doesn't look explosive. Like he's got a good first step. I feel like he gets off very nicely at times, but he doesn't look explosive coming off the edge. I thought he struggled versus double teams. I didn't think he was that great against the run. I think this is a great thing for the 49ers if you're looking at late 3rd, maybe 4th round with this guy, with where you could take him. The problem is he's a lot higher on boards, and he's going sometimes late 2nd, early 3rd. I don't know if you should take that risk there. I think this is more of a developmental prospect than a guy who's ready to step in and have an impact day one.
Yeah, Myjai Sanders, 6'4", 240 pounds. And there was questions about him at the combine because he came in and weighed in under 230 pounds.
Correct.
People were worried about that. Apparently, that was from an illness.
Yep.
So he lost weight. Now he's back up over 240 pounds at his pro day. That is good news. I think he has good quickness. I liked him a lot. And then I thought that he played a little bit tall at times, a little high. And I had questions about his technique. I thought he was more raw and needs to develop. But I thought that he was somebody that, you're right, would make sense for the 49ers in round 3. Pick 93, pick 105, that compensatory pick, being able to bring him in and develop him because there is something there. Is he as electric as David Ajabu or Arnold Ebiketie? No, he's not. He doesn't have that kind of skills. Is he able to set the edge like Boy Mafi? No, he's not. But he's one of those guys that does a little bit of good things. My question is, does he actually fit the 49ers wide 9 as good as he would fit possibly playing in a 3-4 defense? If you played an outside linebacker in a 3-4, I think that might actually fit his skill set a little bit better. So some of these 3-4 teams might value him a little bit more than the 49ers do. But the 49ers have proven with D Ford and with the Samson Ebukam that they're willing to go get 3-4 outside linebackers, put their hand in the ground, and teach them how to get after it. So he could be on their wish list around round 3. I would think 105 compensatory pick, if he was able to fall there, would be the spot. I just don't know if he's going to make it because I think one of these 3-4 defenses will value him and go ahead and make him a selection.
Very, very well could be the case. And Jess with the $4.99 super chat, we appreciate that. Thank you so much. Is there anyone in the 5th round you think the Niners should take since that has been their sweet spot in previous drafts? Is there a name in the 5th round, Ant, that you're looking at?
Yeah.
Is there a certain gentleman from Ohio State we can just transition smoothly into? Look at that clean super chat there, Ant. He's going to be... Now,
you think he's going to be there in the 5th round?
I don't think he should be there in the 5th round, but I've seen him consistently mocked in those areas. I've seen him consistently falling in those spots. So I think this is a guy that may be there in the 5th, but you may have to take in the 4th, and I'd be A-okay with that. Do you think he goes any earlier than the 4th round?
I mean, I value him that much because he's a star player for me.
I had a 3rd round grade on him, but I've seen him consistently mocked in the 5th.
So we'll talk about him. It's Tyreek Smith, 6'3", 255 pounds out of Ohio State.
Accurate.
A 5-star recruit going to Ohio State. His production's not there. So if you're looking at production numbers and what he did at Ohio State, there is absolutely nothing that's going to show it. Now, little insider information from what I've heard from my Ohio State guys that watch him all the time is that he suffered COVID early in 2021, and it kind of hampered his success early on. But here's my good traits about him. Good athlete, good bend, good hands, good awareness, good strength. Okay, and then when you saw him go against Penning at the Senior Bowl, he was able to back Penning straight up into the quarterback on some of his reps. That is great strength, and that's against possibly the number 1 tackle. So, yeah, this is somebody that I'm excited about, but he has been falling on a lot of boards. I don't think he makes it to the 5th round, but if he's there in the 5th round, absolutely 1,000% I'm making that pick. I don't even think twice. I don't let anyone call about it. I'm making the selection because I think he's somebody that would fit in what the 49ers want to do on the edge, and he would be a nice selection next to Nick Bosa for years to come.
I agree with you there, and my goodness gracious, Turbo, welcome to the TCC, my
welcome,
guy.
Turbo.
Luke Luna with the $1.49 super chat and a sparkling diamond for Mr. Tyreek Smith.
I like that.
I love it. It is a sparkling diamond, Luke. You're not wrong there, my guy. Look, I have here power, reliable, always in position, solid technique, solid against the run. I didn't think, I guess one of the, negative critiques, Ant, was that I didn't see him in the last year of film, and him dealing with COVID early on may explain why he didn't wow anywhere, because doesn't seem to wow anywhere specifically on tape, like overall throughout the game.
Yeah.
But there's flashes, there's moments where it's like there's something special. I don't worry about this guy not being able to win. I feel like he can win. I just expected there to be more dominance than I was seeing, and part of that might have been just him being hampered early in that season, coming off of that. And Megan with the $4.99 super chat. Let's go TCC. Spread the love for the cutback. We appreciate that. All of you are spreading the love right now.
Yeah.
My goodness gracious.
Thank you so much.
But Tyreek Smith is one of those guys who I think he shows consistently he can win in a variety of ways. He's not limited to how he can win and beat guys one-on-one or in certain situations. He's shown he can handle double teams. I've seen enough from him handling guys, chipping him off the edge as well, to know this is not a guy who isn't going to go out there and produce for you. He's going to perform. He's going to do the things you want. In all honesty, I heard somebody on Twitter talking about how he reminds him of Kerry Hyder. You look at Kerry Hyder and you don't see anything like special, but for some reason in San Francisco it works. Well, I see special out of Tyreek Smith at times. I don't see Kerry Hyder like no lack of speed or things like that. I see special. I just haven't seen it consistently. But if that means if there's something special there, right? Who better than Chris Kasarik to get it out of a guy like this? I think Chris Kasarik could easily get it out of this. And it's a guy who is from Ohio State, from the same school that Nick Bosa played at. They have a good repertoire with Ohio State guys in San Francisco, and just specifically off the edge. Give me Chris Kasarik working with this guy for the next year or two, and good golly almighty, the Niners might have a steal if he fell into the 5th.
Yeah, and I had no preconceived notions on who this guy was. I didn't really know him. Just started watching the film and thought that there was something about him that flashed consistently on plays. Even plays where he didn't get to the quarterback or he didn't stop the run, I just felt like you could see the potential there. There are questions about his motor, so he would have to make sure that he could prove to the 49ers that he could play in and play out. But I think he could illustrate that, and I believe you put him in a Chris Kasarik type motivated defensive line, and he's either going to stay motivated or he's going to be gone. And in the 4th or 5th round, there's a lot of value in that because he has that potential to be way better than 4th or 5th round. He just hasn't proven it yet in college.
True, he has not proven it quite yet in college, and we're going to see. We're going to see what happens there. Let's jump backwards now, and let's go back towards the that 2nd, 3rd round area of this draft, and let's talk about Nick Bonito, edge guy out of Oklahoma. First off, great bend. I thought he was very explosive. I think he has, personally think he's got top end speed for that position at the defensive edge spot. I liked his hand placement. I think he needs to work on a rip move. I don't think he has a good rip and move for a guy who's going to be playing D end in San Francisco, and being able to rip and bend off the edge is kind of important. So I think he needs to work on that. At times he's overly aggressive, can push a little bit too far upfield, but I think that's partially the speed, just how explosive he is and how he's able to get out. I have some concerns about the strength. But right now, the big thing is he is strictly just a pass rushing guy. He's a guy who can put in there to pass rush. I don't trust him against the run right now. It's not as bad as Oh gosh, who was the gentleman? It's not as bad as, oh man,
Kingsley?
why? It's not as bad as Kingsley.
Yeah.
But it's close. It's getting close to that, but I do like this kid a lot out of Oklahoma. But I also think there's going to be teams that like him a lot, and he probably is going to end up going earlier than I would anticipate wanting to draft him.
He plays in the Big 12, which means he's definitely pass rushed more than anyone else. The Big 12 is not exactly known for the run game.
What?
But you get to see a lot of great reps of him, and what we saw was explosiveness, good hands, and good athleticism. We talked about this with Ebiketie earlier. A situational pass rush you can bring that can make a dynamic impact on your team early in his career as a situational pass rusher, and then you can develop him as a potential, run stopper on the edge, somebody that can set the edge and prevent things from happening. So he wouldn't be a 3-down defensive end coming into the league initially. However, in the 49ers system, it always makes sense because you can get, put into this great rotation. They use your skill sets how they need to. And what do they need? They need another really flashy edge rusher, a guy with elite speed. So Benito would make sense. He'll probably be there at 61, potentially. So you could go ahead and make this move if like Ebiketie and some of these guys are gone. To me, it makes a lot of sense for the 49ers. So I don't think that they would choose him over a dynamite, tackle in the draft or a dynamite wide receiver. But it's close. And I think he could have a huge impact on whatever team he lands on, especially if he's not asked to play all 3 downs. I'm not as high on him as some of the guys I was last year, but I'm definitely high on this guy.
Agreed with you. I am high on this guy as well. It's just not as a 3-down traditional pass rushing threat right now. He's not there. He's a pass rushing threat, but this is not a guy you want to have to go out there and be out there for 3 downs and rely on him to be able to set the edge and stop the run. It's just not. It's not there. Really not there. I see the Cutback crew is giving Bobo some insights into the draft because he says he doesn't really know anything about the draft. And Cutback crew, a couple of them. There's 7 rounds. The worst team gets the first pick.
Yeah.
So, TCC all over it right now.
And that's okay. I mean, if you don't know about the draft, it's a good time to get into it because the next 4 weeks or so it's going to be draft coverage all over the place.
Accurate.
So if you've never been into the draft, it's exciting because all these players are going to end up in a situation. For some of these guys, it's going to be an absolute dream. And all the while, we as fans get to live out, our team's development as these players get to live out their dreams. It's kind of a cool thing to watch, and it's a cool thing to talk about because you get to feel like your team's getting better, and these players get to, change their families' lives potentially forever.
Forever. Yeah. Literally forever. And I mentioned, we saw earlier too, Jag, one of his super chats, he had mentioned Isaiah Thomas out of Oklahoma, the guy opposite of Benito. Number one, think he has a really high motor. He's very active. He's very relentless. Doesn't get too far downfield. It felt like he was out of fit in the scheme at Oklahoma.
Okay.
I think he's better served kind of off the edge, whereas at times with him, they were moving him onto the interior and playing him kind of in a traditional hybrid role, but he's not super big. He's not a big guy that I think would excel playing on the interior. He's 6'4", which is a nice size. He's 265 pounds. Throwing him on the inside there at times can be an issue, and he was on the inside on base rundowns at times, and it was odd. It was very odd. But despite that, played pretty well. I think he'd be better served on the edge, but he may be viewed in more of like a Arden Key type role in San Francisco. The only problem, the issue is that with where he's projected to be going, and the Niners having just signed Kerry Hyder, I don't know if this is something they're actually considering anymore.
Yeah, it all depends on where he goes in the draft. If he falls to a nice location where the 49ers feel his value is worth the pick, they could go that route. You're right, he does have some position versatility, but you ask, is he the Solomon Thomas type thing where he's a tweener? Can he play one way or the other? Because I think that with some of these guys, they are the same size, but they play with more physicality and power that you can see them moving to the inside or being able to play those downs. But it is similar size to what Arden Key had. I mean, it's almost basically the same guy. So if you're looking at it that route, the difference was Arden Key had some of these elite pass rush skills that he could play on the edge and do, and then he just put those on a guard. So he could be an interest for the 49ers. We'll see what round that would be. I think he's definitely overshadowed by his teammate. Benito's a way better player.
Agreed.
But I think he could have some value in later rounds as the 49ers look to maybe grab an edge rusher. But I think they'd rather grab a more impactful guy to play on the outside than more of a guy that might not make the roster because of how deep their team is. I know they got 1-year contracts. Edge rushers galore on 1-year contracts. So you might need to go depth there, but we'll see how that plays out.
We're going to see how that plays out, and let's talk about now Jesse Luketa, since we had mentioned him earlier, Ant, and Penn State guy in San Francisco, and the two big dogs. The big dogs were there. Luketa out of Penn State. I thought he was violent with his hands on film. Very violent and aggressive with his hands, which I like. I thought he moved well laterally. I thought he held up pretty well against the run. I said on my analysis after watching about 3 or 4 games of him, it doesn't feel at times that he's natural at the DN spot. Like, he's not a natural there, but he definitely has raw tools and could be a problem down the road as a developmental piece. The question is where are you drafting a developmental piece? Where are you able to get him? I've seen him mocked anywhere from between the 4th and the 6th round sometimes at times. Yeah. What do you think about Jesse Luketa? Where are you thinking he would go if San Francisco were to look at a guy like this, or are you even considering this?
Yeah, I think so. In the 130s, the 49ers have a nice 4th round pick there. That could be something they potentially go with. I watched the Senior Bowl clips against Daniel Falele, the biggest offensive lineman in the entire draft. And yet this guy was able to get under him and drive him back into the quarterback once. That's a solid rep from a guy who's, not the biggest, but he's got a lot of quickness and a lot of ability. I think that he's a player that would make sense as a developmental piece like we talked about. But I do believe he maybe fits better in a 3-4 outside linebacker role in the NFL. So potentially one of those teams running a 3-4 could grab this guy. So he might actually get valued higher than maybe a 4-3 team would value him because of his size and speed and everything. But he's a good player. I saw good reps at the Senior Bowl, and I would be excited about the 49ers drafting him because I do think Chris Kasarik and Darryl Tapp could develop him.
They can. I have complete faith in either of those guys. They could do a lot of different things with a lot of different individuals, Ant, and that is definitely some things there. Cutback crew, right now, give us some gentlemen. Give us some gentlemen that you want us to talk about as well. And Ant, is there anyone else on your list, or going down your list now, is there a name specifically that you would like to go through now? Because we just got a super chat from Jag, $5. Thoughts on Jermaine Johnson from Florida State, Alex Wright, 6'7", 265, or Michael Clemens from Texas A&M, Adam Anderson, 6'5" as well.
Okay.
So Jermaine Johnson, first and foremost, we didn't talk about him mostly because he's probably going in the top 20 and the Niners have no chance to get him.
And I've watched a ton of Jermaine Johnson last year.
It's true, as a Florida
State guy. I'll just give you a quick rundown of him, even though the 49ers probably won't be able to get him. Power, off the charts, good technique, can bend the corner, stout run defender. The one thing I had a negative about him, he can get squared up. I thought it was something that could happen to him. Yeah. But he was a star player for me. David Ajabo, of course, a star player. Cameron Thomas, a star player. Now, who was someone else he brought up? Michael Clemens.
Yeah, Michael Clemens from Texas A&M.
Yeah, Michael Clemens. I have that he's big and strong. I like that he was nasty. I mean, the dude was just one of those aggressive players. He had decent bend, and he was good against the run. A nice base 4-3 defensive end, somebody that you plug and play. So for depth reasons, rotation reasons, he's a guy that would definitely make sense there. So I thought that he was one. And then Alex Wright, we kind of just started watching film of recently. Correct. You're right. Big, tall, needs a lot of development. I mean, he's one of those guys this guy's completely raw. This is something we saw last year from UAB, where you got Jordan Smith, who was an absolute athlete, but needed a lot of development. And he went around the 4th round. I think Alex Wright, you're right, 4th, 5th round, somebody that you could develop.
And that's possible for San Francisco. It is possible.
I like that. Another one that he had talked about earlier that we didn't talk about was Pasquale.
Josh Pasquale from Kentucky.
Yeah, the reason I wanted to bring him up is I know everyone sees him as edge rusher, and I see him as an interior defensive lineman.
Thank you.
I think that he could slide inside.
In fact, on my breakdown, he's on my interior D-line list. I didn't put him on my DNs.
I think he could slide inside for one of these penetration-style defenses and have a Maurice Hurst caliber, player in him. So he's somebody I'm watching, and we'll probably talk about interior defensive line because I think he could actually be a very nice value for a team. Or maybe you don't value him as much as a 4-3 outside defensive end. You might value him as an interior defensive lineman. I know I would if I was the 49ers. I see a lot of potential in him. There's good pass rush techniques. He's able to kind of anchor and plug holes up. So I think he could be somebody that the 49ers could be interested in, but as a interior defensive lineman.
Agreed. So Josh Pascal is going to be an interesting one. Jay Alley also said D'Angelo Malone. D'Angelo Malone is an interesting one because
Western Kentucky.
People have him flying. Some people had him flying up boards at the very start of this. I think he's extremely raw. He's very long. I think he's speedy. I think he's got a high motor. There are times against the run where I question some of the. What's the nice way to put this, Ant? I question his desire to be involved in run plays at times, especially plays going away from him. I felt he over pursues at times. It feels like at the moment with him, he's flying by the seat of his pants, and he's flying by on specifically just pure talent and athleticism. It doesn't feel like he's fundamentally developed at all. So tons of talent, tons of possibility, can be molded into anything you like, anything you want. I love that. But I love that late. I don't like that in round 4.
I love elite traits. You know that.
True.
I'm willing to take chances. Jordan Smith last year, I saw elite traits.
You wanted, yeah, you were.
I'm like, yeah, I like this guy.
Give it to me.
My guy from Washington last year, the one that went to Tampa Bay,
Joe Tryon.
Joe Tryon. Loved it. Elite traits. Guys that are...
Which, by the way, end of the first round is where that pick happened.
Yeah.
You and I saw him starting to get mocked closer to the second. People were like, who's Joe Tryon? It's like, y'all going to learn. Y'all going to find out very soon.
Yeah, Joe Tryon, very good. So I think that when you look at these guys with elite traits, those are guys you want to draft, even if you have to draft them early, because the potential's off the charts. And you worry about getting guys that are completely well-rounded. We've seen edge rushers before that are going in the first round. Everyone talks about how good their technique is, how good they are with their hands. And it's like, yeah, that's great. What elite traits do they have? Because when they get in there against other players like Trent Williams that are absolutely great at everything they do, your technique is going to be overshadowed. Nick Bosa has to continue to develop his game to get by Trent Williams. So you need elite things, elite speed, elite power, elite quickness, elusiveness, hand placement. Something has to be elite for these edge rushers to be able to get it done consistently in the NFL. If you don't, you become a rotational piece, somebody that's a guy that comes in the second part of the game. So I love elite traits. So he definitely has elite traits. I'd love for the 49ers to take him at some point in the draft. That'd be great.
It would be nice, Ant. It would be solid for them to do such a thing and for that to be the case there. I'm trying. I don't trust the O-line. At Alex, you're welcome. I missed it. I missed whatever I was supposed to see. I missed. I apologize. I am so sorry. I'm trying to go back through right now and hit a couple of these other names.
Yeah, go for it.
As well. The guys talked about P. Moore, Amari Barno. Have you broken down much of Amari Barno?
I did break down Amari Barno.
You go ahead and hit yours first. Hit your first on this with Amari Barno out of Virginia Tech, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Virginia Tech, 6'4", 237 pounds. So we talked about Myjai Sanders maybe being a little slight. That's the questions with Barno. But the one thing about Barno, he hasn't put on any muscle yet, really.
True.
But you remember how we talked about Jordan Smith?
Yeah.
This is the comp right here.
There you go.
Explosive athlete, I wrote down. Might fit better as a 3-4 outside linebacker.
Keyword there is might.
Might. Strength, and he has problems setting the edge. So his strength and setting the edge are the issues. But Alex, this guy on film is so fun to watch. And you see him falling on draft boards. He goes out there and he runs, was it a 4.3 that he ran? Something ridiculous. Tremendous athlete. I'm the kind of coach that I'm like, you know what? He may not fit my scheme right now, but I'm going to create something for him because he's that impactful as an athlete. I'm going out there and grabbing this guy at some point. He can either play outside linebacker for me, or I can do some hybrid type stuff where I'm bringing this guy up off the edge and letting him rush when he's in there on certain situations. Also, him covering a tight end could potentially be something the 49ers could develop him into because of his athleticism. I would love him late. I mean, late in this draft, if he falls, I would love this because he's a developmental guy that can mold. Special teams delight as well.
He's gonna have a huge impact on special teams immediately. When I watched his tape, I just thought flexibility and bend.
There you go.
This guy can he's flexible. He can bend around the edge. There's definitely high upside with this. It's just high upside in the future, right? It's not necessarily something that's going to have immediate impact for San Francisco right away.
Special teams,
other than special teams. Mm-hmm. I meant with the defense, specifically with the edge rushing position. Right. But on special teams, you are not wrong, and he 100% can. So Amari Barno is definitely a name to keep an eye on. But it's also one of those things too where you may be able to get this with better value if he continues to slide and fall. And it's interesting, right? Last year, Jordan Smith, similar type player, Ant, at a UAB, ended up going earlier than some people thought he may go or maybe should go.
Fourth round, I believe.
Fourth round. It was mid-fourth, too. It wasn't like late fourth.
No, it wasn't,
getting into the fifth. It was middle, early fourth round. This year, not the case. A guy like this with similar skill sets, later down boards, which is actually a positive thing for San Francisco because that means you can, if you think that his upside is as high as someone you could get late third with a compensatory pick, you could just wait. You could just wait and take this guy fourth, fifth, a late fourth, fifth, maybe fifth round, maybe even potentially late fifth if he slid that far, and grab a guy that you feel has higher upside than someone in the late third round.
Yeah, I think what's crazy is I have seen him mocked all the way to the 6th and 7th round.
That is nuts, dude.
Because of the strength and not being able to set the edge and not be able to play, 3 downs of football. The 49ers can develop you. They have time because they have such a great defensive line. Now, this isn't the guy that you're going to be drafting at 61 or at 93. So, yeah, I'm excited.
John Chapman, what is up, my guy?
What's up, John?
$20 super chat. You guys have been crushing it. Love your content. John, we love you, man.
Yeah, we do.
We do. Thank you so much for the super chat. Are you kidding me? John, we're gonna have to do something with John.
Yeah, we are.
We're gonna have to do something. We'll be reaching out, John. We'll have to do something.
Well, we reached out.
Yeah, we did reach out. Sure. Yeah. There's something coming.
Yeah.
And maybe it's next week.
Also, John, awesome, man. Thank you. Yeah, we love John.
That.
We love John's content as well.
Absolutely.
So big time. Thanks, John.
Absolutely. Samesies.
Yeah.
Absolutely samesies, John. Absolutely same season, my guy. Look, there was another gentleman. Oh my goodness gracious, and I just had it up. Kyron Johnson out of Kansas.
Okay.
It's an interesting prospect because I've seen him all over the place on boards. Very, very interesting situation here with that gentleman out of Kansas. I don't know if it's something where San Francisco could do something with him or not. There's definitely some things that pop. It's another one that's a late guy as well. Just a matter of where he would go, where he would be. I don't know if you want to take a guy like this in the 6th or the 5th round because I think there's a little bit more development that meets the eye with this gentleman. And the real question would just be could it be an undrafted free agent aspect for San Francisco? I don't know if he would fall that far.
Yeah, you just don't know. I mean, another guy that had a pretty good Senior Bowl, reps at times, good player, but you just don't know where the 49ers are going to go at that point. When you start getting deeper into the draft for edge rushers, you run the risk of having a guy that won't make your roster because their team is just so good. So making sure you can get somebody that has the elite trait that can be able to make this roster is what they'd have to do. So edge rusher early for me makes sense. And you're not like you're getting a bunch of edge rushers, but like one really good one. Potentially that's where you go with it. I don't think you're going real late. I just don't think those guys make this rotation and make this team. This 49ers defensive line is absolutely stacked. So you run the risk. Somebody undrafted like that, you bring them into camp, see what they can do, potentially stash them on your practice squad. That would make sense. So if that's what happens, then yeah, I could see that.
Agreed with you there. Have you watched any of Carson Wells out of Colorado?
I have not. No.
Okay, so it's a very interesting one. I think he's really good against the run. He's disciplined, has good technique and balance. He doesn't wow in one area, but is top to bottom discipline. And he's always in the right spot.
Yeah.
Seems to always be in the right spot. It's just speed and strength. He's a little bit on the smaller side. He's not really violent either. So no speed, right? Strength concern. It's because of the size. He doesn't have as much bend as he would like, but this is why this guy would be a 6th, 7th undrafted guy. I think it's a name to watch it and look at because he has the motor and some technique stuff that is already in place that if you just get him in the right situation and position and find a way to utilize him, it might be more of a hybrid guy. Hybrid stuff tends to work in San Francisco.
It does.
And it could be a practice squad fit for the 49ers. So just keep it in mind, Cutback crew. Keep it in mind.
Yeah, and I seen, I think it was Jay Ellie that brought up Jeffrey Gunter from Coastal Carolina, 6'4", 260 pounds. I'm sorry, Mr. Jay Ellie. He wasn't one of my favorite guys in the draft. I thought that he was a...
What did you put on your notes?
Yeah. He wasn't one of those guys that elite jumped off the boards, or jumped off the film for me. I liked some of the things he did. I thought he was a solid player. I just think for where he's going to get drafted and who he is, I didn't see it making a lot of sense for the 49ers. And, of course, I'm not the general manager. I'm not the front office, so I'm not the one making the decision on this, but... he wasn't somebody that I would target. There was a lot of other players I felt that had elite traits and upside that I'd rather go with.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong there. JLA just brought up Kate Hall and Alex Wright at a UAB, and Alex Wright is a very interesting one especially with the size at 6'7". It's gigantic.
And the rumors that the Niners are interested in him. I mean, of course, you don't know for sure. Nobody knows what the 49ers are actually thinking or doing.
It's very true.
But he basically has come out and said the 49ers have reached out to him. So
agreed with that there. So look there too. I saw from Hugo G. Any news when D Ford is officially gone? Jeez. There's been no really new updates. There was the comments from from Mr. John Lynch about how they're not expecting him to be ready and it's not looking good in terms of D Ford and where he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's all we have at the moment. That's it. That's all we know, other than the Niners had restructured his contract. He was talking about, being ready to go and trying to be ready to go. The Niners don't feel the same way. They haven't seen enough to make them think it's going to be possible. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, watch June 1. I mean, post June 1, that's when he can be cut. The 49ers can free up, I think it's a little over $1 million this year, a little over $2 million next year. So you get close to a $3.5–4 million savings moving forward. But you're still going to incur that dead cap space, or dead cap hit. It's going to be a little over $5 million for 2022 and 2023 if you cut him. So you might see them make that move to be able to free up some cap. But that would be unfortunate. But you just don't know what you're going to get at D4. And this back and neck injury has not gotten better. John Lynch doesn't seem very optimistic like they did last year. That does not make me feel optimistic, Alex. But we could see, D4 potentially get cut post June 1.
You could. And Mr. Corey with we're going to get David Njoku and Cameron Thomas with those 2 seconds from the Garoppolo trade.
Ooh. Mr. Corey.
Mr. Corey, both a guy who tends to have some fun on this channel, but maybe is turning the corner and is starting to become a little bit more optimistic about what the Niners could get.
I think I sense sarcasm a little bit.
I sense sarcasm as well. I do sense a lot of sarcasm. There's a lot of sarcasm coming from Mr. Corey all the time. And JLE, the Niners don't leak. You are not wrong, my guy. They just don't do it. And they don't do it. Cutback crew, of the guys, of everyone we just named, of all the gentlemen that we just talked about, which one's your favorite? Which one would you want to see the San Francisco 49ers go get, and where? Do you want the Niners to go edge rush at 61? Do you want them to go another direction? We want to hear from you, so make sure you're commenting that below. And you know what, Ant, maybe I'll put up a poll for the Cutback crew as well. Mr. Corey, I love this channel. We love you, man. We love you. We love the sarcasm and the hysterics. It keeps things lighter.
Yeah, you gotta keep it real and keep it live, and that's what Mr. Corey does.
That's true. Trade Ford to Jacksonville. Bulky likes damaged goods, says Marvin Rose.
Marvin Rose,
he ain't wrong.
No, that was a solid point. And yeah, especially if we could get something cool back for him, right? Like, will they finally release my guy up there?
Oh, LaVisca?
Let LaVisca free. Let him come to San Francisco.
Hashtag free Visca?
Free Visca, yeah.
Free Visca. Jerome,
we got Brad, from the SF Niners. He's all about Brian Burns and that trade for Jimmy Garoppolo.
It's true.
I'm all about anything that gets LaVisca Chenault to San Francisco. So Visca's my Brian Burns.
Visca is your Brian Burns. Hey, listen, I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say no to that, Ant. I'm not going to say no to that at all.
Yeah.
We are big fans of Visca Chenault around here on this podcast.
That's right.
So let's go. Marvin Rose is with you, Ant, on that. Pemer, I agree with you guys. Go edge, wide receiver, cornerback, or at 61. I think all three of those positions are.
Yeah.
It's going to be a really hard spot if you're going one of those three at 61 to miss on.
Yeah, there could be some really, really impactful players there, and that's what you want. Is at 61, you're trying to get somebody that can make an impact. You saw all the questions last year with Aaron Banks when they went developmental guy that didn't make an impact, and now there's questions still about him. So I think they want to go somebody that can help their team right now. They need to with the amount of free agents that they let leave. Draft and develop is a good thing. But you have to trust your development when you develop these guys, and you have to continue to build on that. So when you lose impact players, you have to bring in more impact players, and one way to do that is through the draft, and hopefully somebody's going to be available. Now, the question is, I wonder how many people think that the 49ers are going to trade up from 61 to go get one of these impact players. I think that's something to watch as well.
It is something to watch, and it is definitely something that everyone needs to be keeping in mind, because you and I said this last year. We wanted the Niners to move up more. We wanted them to be more aggressive and more sort of pick as many times as you can in the top 150 with the talent that you have and the roster that you already have.
Yeah.
You want impact players. You don't want guys who are just sitting there eating up space or, aren't going to be able to make the 53-man roster. You don't want that. And the further you get past 150, the harder it is to get those type of players. And the Niners have a lot of late compensatory picks, including Mr. Irrelevant at the end of the draft. Use that pick, package, and get up a little bit higher. Get yourself closer. Get yourself some impact players.
Yeah, I mean, if someone wants to take that pick, I think you don't want to make that pick.
You don't want to.
You want to. You want your at worst. You want your last pick to be the the 221 that you have. I think they would really like to move up, get as many picks in the top 150, get impact players that can help your roster. And one of the ways you can do that is by using some of your draft capital to move back and forth throughout the draft, picking the times to move up and making sure you get impact players then, but also moving back if maybe the players on the board aren't, the value's not there. Take an opportunity if it's presented, move back, recoup some of that draft capital to go ahead and make another move eventually.
Very true, Ant. Very true. And speaking of, doing things to help out the team, Cutback crew right now, help the channel out right now. Like the video. We're at 38 right now. Let's get it up to AK47. Let's get it up to Arnold Epichetti 47. Let's put that into existence out there in the ether. Get the video to 47 likes right now, and Arnold Epichetti ends up in San Francisco, guaranteed. It's gonna happen.
It's guaranteed.
It's guaranteed if it gets to 47.
Yeah, and while we're sitting here, let's take a little quick second to remind everyone that Monday at 5 p.m. we're going to have our fan-controlled mock draft.
Accurate.
It's going to be exciting. You don't want to miss it. You are in control, and I think that's what's going to be fun about it. You're going to be making the picks. We're just here to facilitate, and put forth what you guys want. So make sure you're here Monday, 5 p.m. for what is going to be an absolute fantastic ride. 5
p.m. PST. And look, if you want to be able to vote in the fan-controlled mock draft, we are doing that through YouTube. So there are going to be poll questions after we get off today. After we're done with this, there are going to be poll questions going live on the community page that are going to start to get a feel for players you want at 61 and things that you want there done and see happen, whether that's trading up, trading back, staying at that spot, drafting a position, whatever that is. You're going to be able to dictate that to us. And then when we're live here, there's going to be polls on YouTube. So if you're listening on a traditional podcast platform right now and you want to participate, if you're watching this on Twitter or Facebook or somewhere along there and you want to be able to participate, come on over to YouTube, youtube.com/C/49ers Cutback. Links are always in the description as well. You can click those, come right over, set a reminder, subscribe if you haven't already. That way you get notified. And then, have a blast. GMs, TCC GMs, going to be dictating what we do and what the 49ers do in the first mock draft, fan-controlled mock draft for 2022.
Yeah, we're not even putting out our mock draft first. We're letting the fans get it first. That's what's important.
It's true.
And then Hugo says, guys, in interest of full disclosure, I have zero NCAA knowledge, so I can't speak of any of these guys. That is completely fine.
Hey, okay.
That is why we're doing these episodes, so that way we can help you guys, decide who these guys are. So now, Hugo, you know who some of these edge rushers are that 49ers could target, what their strengths and weaknesses are. That's why we do it. If the people that are all into it, some of the people are all into it. They know about all these guys. They interact with us. And for everyone else, we're learning. I mean, there's a lot of these guys that I had to learn about. So, Hugo, have no fear. That's what it's about. It's about learning. It's about getting to know these players, so when the 49ers draft them, you already know who that guy is. Or if they didn't draft him, you can tell someone they didn't draft him because he doesn't even fit the scheme. Like, why would they do that? It's just all about, continuing to advance the knowledge of knowing about the draft.
That's the most important thing. And it's the most important thing. So Cutback crew, if your concerns or questions, we've done a few of these videos now on positions, and if you can't tell yet, we've been doing positions that are a little bit more important to San Francisco in terms of what they need to be doing. So, hey, go back through, watch them, get a better idea of who these guys are. So that way your knowledge is up to point. Do some practice mock drafts as well. You're not going to have a bunch of time. So when we get in there and it's time to start picking, you're going to have a couple minutes to make a decision. You make the decision and we move on, because at the end of the day, we got to get through 7 rounds. 7 rounds. That's 7 rounds of decisions. It's a lot of different players, potentially up to 9 or 10 guys. If you decide to keep all the picks and there's no trades at all whatsoever, it's going to be fun, though. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I am too. And I'm excited to see what everyone else does. I mean, we've seen from the chat, what people's lists are, of positions that they want to target. And now they're going to have to decide. And we don't have to decide, luckily. It's not going to be our choice. We're going to sit back, let this thing happen. I'm curious where the fans go. And I'm also curious to see how it develops, which players drop, and potentially, what moves are made.
Agreed with you there, my guy. Ayuk will emerge as the number 1 wide receiver this year, with Lance Debo as a fantastic football player, but his route running is not refined yet. I think it's important that Debo gets his money now, though. This is Frank. Interesting. Okay. We're going to see. We're going to see.
Yeah, it could be. I seen Megan said, are you guys doing a quarterback video next?
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, it's the most important thing for the Niners to do, right? Draft a QB. Woo!
Hello, Dustin Crum, round 7.
Woo! Eventual backup to Trey Lance, probably not going to happen.
Yeah, probably not.
Probably not going to happen. Look, there is a lot of college guys. This is going to be a lot of fun on Monday. You're not going to want to miss it at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And there's another thing that we're going to be announcing here at some point. It's going to be next week with John Chapman, who is here in the chat, and another gentleman as well.
Yeah. You want to be here on Monday for the mock draft, because we're going to have a huge announcement about what is coming on Wednesday. And John Chapman jumped in chat, so we'll go ahead and leak that. John Chapman is going to be on a show with us on Wednesday night. We're going to do something very cool. He's going to be a part of it. And I'm going to hold and tease the other gentleman because we went out and got another great content creator that's going to join us as well. It's going to be an absolutely fun conversation. It's going to be about the draft. We're going to get into everything. So John Chapman will be here on Wednesday at 5 p.m. And also, we'll have another person, and we're going to drop that knowledge on Monday on the mock draft. So make sure you're here for the mock draft so you can see who else is going to be joining us.
You don't want to miss any of that. And the best way not to miss any of it is to subscribe. Subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video as well. Hit that notification bell. If you're listening to this on a traditional podcast platform after the fact, leave us a rating. We appreciate all of that. If you're watching on Facebook, share it in all of the Facebook groups. And if you're watching on Twitter, just easily hit that retweet button. Put it out there for the rest of the faithful. This is absolutely an incredible time for the San Francisco 49ers. This is an incredible time for this team. And the draft is an area where fans feel a lot of different ways about the Niners and when it comes to drafting. There's been the hiccups in the early rounds, but there have been a lot of home runs and just steals as undrafted free agents that the 49ers have gone after and brought in. So if you're a 49ers fan, the draft time is one of the most important times of the year because even if you don't hit in the first round and the Niners have been hit or miss, you imagine this team and this front office is going to hit late and hit with undrafted guys who are going to be around this team for years to come.
Gary always says in chat, optimism is king. And the cool thing about the 49ers draft or an NFL draft, it gives you optimism. You have optimism about what these young players can do for your team and then where your team is headed as you continue to fill holes with these great talented players. So optimism is king, and that's what the NFL sells to the NFL draft is optimism. And everyone feels like it could be their year after they come out of the draft. It's exciting, and I'm looking forward to it.
Sacktown Izzy picked Benito in the poll because of his name. I don't know any of these players, so just went with that. Absolutely phenomenal, Izzy. Wonderful, my guy. Absolutely wonderful.
It's actually a pretty close vote, too, by the way.
It is. It is. I see Ajabu currently sitting there with 43% of the vote, and Mafi with 24, Benito with 19, and Ebiketie with 14. No one really running away with it, which is always good.
Yeah, exactly. I like that. We got people that are definitely informed, in our chat, so I love that.
Portola, I work for the University of Washington. Didn't know any of the Husky players. Had to research.
Hey, if you are looking for a defensive back, Washington football has some of the best defensive backs last year and this year. Just go check out the defensive backs. Fantastic.
There's a couple of guys, man.
Yeah.
There's a couple really
I can't wait
players.
till we get into corners. And we might have to do corners like nickel guys and then corners outside guys. We might have to split it because
to break it up.
There is some absolute fantastic corners in this draft.
It's true.
And Washington always seems to have really, really good ones. Maybe even a couple of gems that no one knows about.
Possibly could be the case. We're excited. We're going to get through all of that.
Yeah.
We're going to get into all of that. Don't you worry, Cutback crew. There's going to be more of these streams, more of these positions being broken down. We got a few weeks till the draft still, so it's not like, we have to rush through these. We're going to take our sweet time, get through as many as we possibly can. I don't know any of them either. The only college team I follow is Notre Dame, but like any good fan, that does not keep me from having an opinion. I love it, Marvin. I love it. You have that opinion. Ain't nothing wrong with having an opinion, and we love conversating with you guys about your opinions and what's going on with this. And Frank brought it up, and so I might as well plug it right now before we wrap up officially for the night. He said, I wish I could be at the NorCal draft party with you guys. Hey, we wish you could too, and anyone that can be, Back Alley Brew, April 29th, 4 to 8 p.m. in Galt, California, day 2 of the NFL draft. 4 hours of streaming, 4 hours of fun, 4 hours of, well, maybe not 4 full hours of beer pong, but beer pong tournament going on, some 50-50 raffle. I think you said it, 20 plus beers on tap.
There is, yeah.
Nothing but good times and fun with the TCC. So if you can be there. We're going to have a blast.
Yeah. Tacos, beer, TCC,
Lumpia.
NFL draft. What is better than that? I don't know. Well, now you soiled it.
That's my
no, it's going to be an absolute fantastic time. If you can come out and join us, please do that. It's going to be a great time. I'm looking forward to this so much, and it's going to be a blast. And because the 49ers pick at 105, we will literally be there for the entire draft. So it's a blast. 49ers make the last pick of the 3rd round. I can't wait for all of it. It's going to be exciting. Let's see what happens. But if you have the opportunity to get there, get there.
The optimism is starting to sneak in for Mr. Corey. And I'm a little older than you guys and can remember when the Niners blew entire drafts. Every pick. This regime at least nails 1 to 2 players every draft with
there
the thumbs
you go. Look at that.
Look at Mr. Corey coming through with the optimism. I love it.
Optimism is king.
It is king here on the 49ers Cutback, and it's just king in general. And that's the way we view it. And you know what? Everyone's going to feel differently about this. Thank you all again for tuning in. This was a whole heck of a lot of fun, Ant. I'm looking forward to more of these. Tomorrow night, you'll have a special live stream with yours truly here, so make sure you're around for that. 8:45 p.m. We'll be on a little bit later, having some good times and some good conversations. Man, Ant, what a day, what a stream. It's time for WrestleMania.
Yeah, it is. Happy WrestleMania Day. Oh, and now it's WrestleMania weekend, so that's going to be exciting. If you like wrestling and you're enjoying that today, have a good day. If you're not, go back and watch the other draft content that we put out so far. There's going to be a lot of exciting ones, and I'm just going to sneak this. The draft content that's coming up from this channel is about to be through the roof. You need to make sure you pay attention to some of the things that are going to be coming out Monday when we drop the other content creator. It's going to just set a chain reaction of great things for this upcoming stretch, all the way building until the draft party.
You ain't wrong there, Ant. You are not wrong there. Make sure you're here Monday for the Fan Control mock draft. If you want to have a fun chat tomorrow night, a little cutback chat with yours truly, we'll see you there for 8:45 p.m. And make sure you're on board, because Monday we're going to drop some big news, and then Wednesday it's going to get real, Ant. Yeah, it's going to get real right here on the 49ers Cutback. We'll see you all for the next one, and until that time, stay safe.
Remember, the right way
is always the 49ers way.
You subscribed, but are you a channel member? You probably should be.
You get extra additional content, Madden gameplays, you get early access to tons of different videos, as well as what do we call those things again? Oh, that's right. Live membership only live streams. That's right. Only for members, only for you. You get all of our time, and not just football, Ant.
Yeah, lots of other stuff as well. So go ahead and click the join button right now and join the 49ers Cutback crew.
Get some cool emojis also.
Oh, yeah, that as well.